what is Minnesota nice in your eyes, or like what's your perception on it?
Minnesota nice is basically just like acting like people matter. I mean, you drive down the road, you need to get onto a busy highway, and people let you on. You drive down the highway anywhere else, and like people just don't even like acknowledge that you're there. They don't acknowledge your existence. It's just acting like people are people.
I don't know. I think most of the time I see it as it's just simple like door holding, I guess.
Okay, just like
I don't know if you're walking in public. I go to Florida. People are just bleep. No, people are just kind of rude and don't really care about anything else that they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, I don't know. You walk in the store, they're walking behind you, or like you're walking behind them. You know. They just don't care. They just walk, door shuts right on you, and like whatever. But like here, I feel like more people are open to helping others.
I'd definitely say Midwest, not just Minnesota. Like Midwest is the nicest region, all in all. I think Minnesota is probably one of the nicest states that I've ever been to. I mean, Wisconsin's a lot like Minnesota, but we're Minnesotans, so it's Minnesota nice, you know. But yeah, East Coast, I'm not a big fan of the people up there. They are pretty self-centered. The South, yes, they've got some hospitality as well, but nothing that compares to Minnesota nice.
Yeah, absolutely. East Coast people, definitely not very nice. Especially if you go up northeast, gross. New York, snobs.
Mm-hmm.
Florida's nice because there are a lot of old people, but Florida's nice.
Minnesota people will hold the door open for you walking into a grocery store. It literally goes back to my first point of just acting like you're there, acknowledging your existence rather than just completely being worried about yourself. The other places, they don't seem to acknowledge existence as much as here, and especially like small town Minnesota, small town Midwest. I go to a small town of 1,400 people, I'm waving to everybody. I don't know anybody, but it's just what you do. You go to a lake, you wave to everybody.
Do you think it's like in other countries it's kind of split up like the United States, where East Coast is more gritty, Midwest is more nice? Yeah, like
I kind of heard things. I don't know too much about like super overseas, but I've heard like different cultures are definitely different towards other people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm sure one side of, let's just say across the border in Mexico, let's say the east side of Mexico is one way where all like the resorts are, and like the other side is just not as up and coming, kind of more underdeveloped.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's definitely some different personality there.
Yeah. Or even people you don't even really know, but like going up to them and like they say something, agreeing with them, like, oh yeah, I like that too, or that's really cool, but then walking away 10 seconds later and being like, oh, that's stupid. Like, what is that person talking about? Like,
I've never thought about that, but yeah, I do that.
Yeah.
I do that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure other people do it as well.
Exactly, and that's that passive aggressiveness. That's part of avoiding conflict. You agree with them, so you don't have to deal with that conflict of, oh no, I don't like that, and then you get in the argument.
I personally kind of am like that. Like, if I don't have to have conflict, I don't want to. Like,
Mm-hmm.
If I can avoid it to some extent, I will, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't like dealing with it, but if I have to deal with it, then I will.
Mm-hmm. So would you... So, and then, like the other one I said, doesn't like change. Like a lot of Minnesota people like to stick around the Midwest or like in Minnesota and don't like to venture out as much. Would you agree with that in a way? Or do you think people still like to... they like change. Like, what about you? Do you like change? Like big change?
I wanna move away,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not raising my family anywhere other than Midwest, other than Minnesota.
Why is that?
Great place.
The culture?
The culture, yeah. It's 100% the culture. I want to bring them up with Minnesota tendencies, you know. I don't want them to grow up East Coast, West Coast, no chance. Those people I'm not a fan of.
Do you think Minnesota Nice hinders people from achieving things, or affects like relationships due to the passive aggressiveness and like avoiding conflict? Like, do you think some people aren't as successful in their personal life due to that? Where like in the East Coast, people aren't scared of conflict. Like, they'll start conflict every day, multiple times a day. Do you think us not liking conflict hinders us a little bit?
No, I would say, I mean, depends on how bad you don't like conflict. If you're willing to suffer that badly to not get conflict, I think there's something else other than Minnesota Nice going on, because I feel like we still, if we want something, we can go change it. I mean,
yeah.
I don't think that the passive aggressiveness affects that deeply into our lives.
Yeah, I definitely feel a little bit. I'm trying to grow out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Get away from the passive aggressive and just be straightforward.
Yeah, why's that?
I just better be honest right away if we're talking like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be nice and honest. Like, it's people get butthurt by way too much.
Yeah, exactly. And that's
why people are scared, and that's why they think it's passive aggressive, because everyone gets butthurt by stuff. So you have to be nice to them in front of their face, even if you don't believe it.
Exactly. What are 2 or 3 things you think of right away? Like acts, like physical acts of Minnesota Nice that you see in like day-to-day life.
Holding the door open.
Mm-hmm.
Saying good morning, thank you, like in restaurants or whatever. Like having conversations with them and being very respectful. And then I would say the biggest one I enjoy the most is being at the lake or in a small town and just waving to everybody. Because everybody in those places waves to everybody, regardless if you know them.
Driving. As soon as you brought up Minnesota Nice, I thought of driving because, I go to Florida a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my aunt, whatever, lives there, family. Their drivers are the biggest assholes I have ever seen. They just,
Yeah.
like, they don't care. They're going 90 through traffic, and it's like insane. Like, here, people are like kind of watching out over themselves and like kind of let other people run control with that passive aggressiveness.
Yeah.
They're passive, they'll let them go, and then they'll aggressively just road rage yell at them. Not
Exactly.
guilty of that, that's for sure. Don't go anywhere with your parents. You'll never leave.
15 minutes of walking down the driveway, getting out the door.
And then you gotta go back up because you gotta say goodbye to someone else came. It's tough.
It's
Don't
another
do it.
5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It just came to me. What are your thoughts on when you pass someone in the hall and they say, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" And then you respond, "Good, how about yourself?" And then that person just, kind of walks away, and it's just, that happens every time, but no one really thinks about it.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
And it's like, it's literally the same conversation. You pay, "Oh, hey, how's it going? Good, how about you?" And then it's just like...
Yeah, and the person who says, "Good, how are you?" and they don't say anything, like, there's no hard feelings.
No, it's just
It's just what you do.
Yeah.
It's literally what you do.
So that just came to me, and I just thought that, I don't know if that's part of Minnesota Nice as well, or if that happens in other parts. I don't know, but that just kind of came up
Yeah, I don't
to my
know.
being.